Hey guys, Nananki here, bringing you another round of Kerbal Space Program. Today, I am on a mission for Duna, the Mars analog in this particular solar system, insofar as this is a analog for the Earth solar system, which it's really not. And I've actually already got pretty much everything I need built, and in orbit for that matter. And in fact, it took a stunning amount of time to develop my concept for a lander, and then to build a ship to take it into orbit, so I wouldn't have to build a refueling ship to refuel it after taking it into Kerbal orbit before taking it elsewhere. I decided it would just be simpler if I just built a massive, massive launch vehicle underneath it, and that turned into the most ridiculous launch vehicle you could possibly imagine. And I've since learned actually more efficient designs that don't require 7 different stages of solid rocket boosters, but for the sake of posterity, I did record it, and so here it is sped up like 250 times normal speed so that it's actually watchable. It's only like a minute and a half instead of 4 hours or whatever the hell it came out to be. So as you can see, it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger because that landing vehicle I built is really rather heavy, and in the end I did have to use some of its fuel to get it into orbit and then refuel it anyway, thus defeating the entire purpose of this entire stretch of time. But like I said, it exists now, and I've even made a few more refinements and tweaks to it. And in the interest of keeping this video reasonable, and its focus is going to Duna, not building a ridiculous ship, we are going to just go ahead and continue with the mission to Duna. In addition to the lander, you have here what you might call the interplanetary drive section, which consists of 3 atomic thrusters and a lot of fuel, and a lot of RCS thrusters to move its giant hulking bulk around. And the Mars, hopefully, Duna, landing section, which consists of 6 parachutes, the kind that will go to a full deployment, not just the drogue parachutes, because they had so much drag in the high atmosphere of Kerbal, which I assume will be like an analog for the lower atmosphere of Duna, because if Duna is anything like Mars, it has a much thinner atmosphere. And they tore right off. And I was like, oh yeah, so the partial deployed state of these, their drag is 0.1, whereas the drogues are 0.4, so I decided to go with these because they're less likely to be torn off the ship. And that's kind of a nice benefit to have them attached. And I had to go with these engines here, the aerospike engines, because they're short enough to fit legs next to them, and also because they have really great ISP in a atmosphere, so good efficiency. In the middle stage, after we go to leave Mars, or Duna, I'm probably going to do that a few times, will be what gets us back into orbit to meet up with our main drive section again, to dock back with it and then fly back, assuming there's no complications from deconstructing those. I don't think there should be, because it's attached more solidly to the main section than it is to the surrounding section there. We'll cross our fingers on that when the time comes. The first thing we needed to do is get a shot at Mars, at Duna. Get a maneuver lined up here. And I was already kind of in the game a little bit ago, obviously. Kind of getting things set up when I realized, I was like, well, I'm really going to Duna. I should really make this a mission. I'm not entirely sure this is the most effective spot to try to meet up with it from, but this seems to be something that works. So let's just get that periapsis as low as possible, because this gives us a nice wide encounter, and we'll have tons of time to adjust our approach. I kind of like that about this particular approach, because when we come in and we get into our encounter, it's going to be like next to us basically, and in the middle of our encounter will be only 8 million meters. That's not a lot, and that gives us like a lot of time, so that's fine. That's quite close enough. Alright, let's get to this burn. Only we're going to start early, because the game always assumes that you're going to go full throttle, and it's not even an option with these engines. Close enough. Make adjustments on the fly. Plus the atomic rockets gimbal a bit, and that really helps to control the thing without RCS, and that saves some monopropellant RCS fuel. Yeah, see, I can't go that high or they overheat. But I'm not certain that they have a lowered efficiency while overheating, but it would make sense that they would. Glad this clamping system has enough struts that it doesn't break or fall apart despite the size of the thing. There's not that much pressure coming out of these rockets despite their bright appearance. They do have fuel for days, though. That's the thing I like about them. We got a few lights on this thing for the purposes of docking and the purposes of landing. Just in case it's dark, when either of those things should occur. It's going to be a long burn. Just kind of making sure all the fuel tanks were properly functional. I didn't want this thing to be taking fuel out of the lander. I don't know why I thought it would, but don't have much experience with docked vessels yet, so... Don't have much experience at all, for that matter. That's one of the reasons why there's not been a Kerbal video since my Minmus landing. Was my goals were lofty to go to Duna immediately after that, and I decided I was going to mess around with docking. As it turns out, docking is actually kind of a process, and you have to kind of get accustomed to it before it's even the closest to even approaching smooth. It's not smooth at all with me most of the time, but this last one was actually pretty good. I got this main drive section attached to our lander without very much difficulty. I was pretty happy about that. The lander I engineered here is actually capable of getting into orbit from Kerbal, so I assume it will do the job on Duna. The only question is if I will need to use more fuel on the descent because of the thinner atmosphere not supplying enough drag for the parachutes to do the vast majority of the work for me on the way down, which was the idea. Landing on Eve and returning is apparently the hardest planet to pull that off because it is something like 70% bigger than Kerbal, so 1.7 times the gravity, and a much thicker atmosphere to boot. So that's going to be a challenge, but apparently it's got some 10-kilometer tall mountains. If I can get on top of one of those with my lander, maybe I'll have enough of an altitude, cheat to get back into orbit without having to alter this lander design too significantly. If you're wondering why it has one single wing, it's to try to counteract the weight of the generator that I put on there, because that stage is unmanned and the non-command pods don't have their own power production, basically, and turning on the lights made my SAS die, and I was just like, whatever, I'll just slap a generator on there. And then the thing was unbalanced, and I was like, ugh, I don't want to use another generator for no reason. I'll put a wing there. That makes sense. Sure. When we go to land with the lander, we'll probably transfer a significant portion of that RCS into these little mono-propellant side tanks. In fact, there's really no reason to wait on that. That, and we're not quite as lined up as we were on our burn. Just pay attention to these things. They're kind of important. Just going interplanetary distances, it's not like inches matter, right? Yeah. At least the maneuver node moves to accommodate not having enough thrust or not being lined up properly for a time. It'd be nice if there was a way to use the SAS to lock it to the guidance path that you had set. Tied it to the guidance computer, or whatever you want to say. That's still pretty close. Whatever. We'll angle. We'll go into the atmosphere. Things will be okay. Sure, no problem. I just keep telling myself that. Let's see, I don't think having this thing set as the target really matters very much now. We're gonna run pretty much past it, so... just go ahead and get to it then. What's done is done. Let's see how it works out for us. Before I do that, though, let's take one more look at Kerbal as we leave. Oh, wow. It's the first time I'm leaving the system of Kerbal beyond just going to visit Minmus and such. We're not even past the orbit of Minmus yet. So, of course, we have seen Kerbal from this distance before. But we've never been as far as we're about to be. Adam, Babbe, and Ablo, the brave astronauts willing to brave this incredibly braving mission. Brave, brave, brave. Oh. So unoriginal. This harrowing, danger-filled mission. Here we go. This looks okay to me. Even though we've got a lot of extra energy. When we go this going past it here, we could have probably angled to avoid that, but if we had gone any slower, then we were getting farther from our point of contact, and we don't want that. Luckily, we have a time machine on board that affects not only us, but the entire universe. It's very convenient. Okay, here we come. See, seeing as we don't even technically have an interaction right now, things need to be done. Yeah. Yeah, see there, you can see it from that view, but it's kind of above us, to be honest. Alright, let's get to work here. First, we're going to move this a little bit closer. And we're going to do stuff and things with our orbit. Yes. Whatever it takes. And are we above it, or below it, or what? Yeah, there we go. Good things are happening, I think. Yeah, that's close enough. Alright, we've got a burn to do. It's actually not a small one. That's lame. Oh well. What must be done must be done. Oh, crap, crap, crap. I went past it. I didn't mean to hit the comma again. No! No! It's not too late. We can still do it. Right? Right? Please tell me we can still do this. Okay, well, we'll just hope for the best then and not overheat. Lesson learned. Do not be antsy with the time advancement. Be very cautious and careful at all times or you may regret it. We wasted a lot of fuel on this trip because like all of this Delta V that we're doing right now is also as much as we wasted in the first place because we needed to just have our orbit go out to Duna and stop, which I should have paid attention to the orbit screen while I was doing my burn instead of... Speaking of the devil, how are things going here? We're getting closer, right? Yes. Good. Excellent. At least we have an encounter happening. That makes me happy. Let's continue to get that closer, shall we? And you there. Yes. Now I can control the throttle and such, while still looking at what's actually important. Basically, the moment I see this thing stop going down, if it does so before the anticipated end of the burn, I will make adjustments as required. It's only a little unsettling not seeing the engine loadouts. Okay, nothing's overheating. Of course it's not. I thought now would be a good time for the game to play that trick on me. And once we're actually in the encounter, we can do a more accurate burn to get this thing nice and low. Coming down to it now, aren't we? Oh, whoa, it's going up, stop. Okay, that was the special closest that we can get from here moment. Just gotta get rid of that. Okay, well this is a pretty good encounter here, and we're gonna have lots of time to fix it once we get closer. So now I think it's time to look and see if we can't see Duna yet. I really am a little bit annoyed that I kind of can't. Let's see, I need to look also slightly up, and I'm looking there relative to my ship. So it would be, from my ship's perspective, like somewhere between the red and the blue dot above the white dot, off in that direction, away from the sun. There it is. Tiny white speck in the middle. That's Duna. Oh, let's speed up time, shall we? And get a bit closer. I don't want to accidentally blow past our encounter here, so I'm going to come out to the map screen for the rest of this approach. And I'll speed it up more, but I'm not even going to go to 100,000. I'm not even doing it. I'm scared of it now. Let's put the fear in me. I'm not willing to take any chances now. In fact, speaking of taking chances, let's hit F5. Quick save. Fantastic. Let's see, this encounter is still an in-game day away, so not going to do that in real time. Boy, space travel is slow. And once we get to our encounter, we'll get a recalculation of our approach and all kinds of stuff. Action and excitement and adventure. There we have it. Okay, well, as it stands now, there we go flying by. That's why we're going to change that. Let's see if we can't wrangle something, yeah, like that. Except it's still got just too much velocity on it. You know what? Maybe we could aero brake the whole vessel. You think that'd be a thing we could do? Chancy. Let's take a look at doing that, shall we? We need to hit this pretty deep in the atmosphere, I think. Because I think it's supposed to be like Mars, which means it's going to have like no atmosphere on it, basically. I think we'd have to go even lower than 23, maybe. That's getting scary, because there could be some tall mountains. I mean, Olympus Mons is like the tallest mountain, or maybe the tallest volcano in the solar system that we have, and it's on Mars. So I'm thinking that Duna might have some pretty hellacious mountainous terrain. Let's go a little bit lower than 23, but not much. 10's more than I'm willing to chance. And back to 21. Okay, tiny moves, tiny moves. That was a big move. 15.5, I think that'll work. I think that'll work. I don't know, I'm basing this on nothing. Even with the velocity we're coming in at, I think this will work. Even though it thinks we're going to have an escape point, an escape point. Even though it thinks we're going to have an escape point, I think we're going to slow down sufficiently in the atmosphere, and good things will happen. And you know what? If they don't, quick save. Because this is 1/10 the burn of the previous estimate to try to get into a Duna orbit, because we have a crappy approach, because I screwed up several ways from Sunday. So desperate measures are required if we want to salvage this approach properly. Hey, look at that! Duna! Hello! And Ike. I see white on the poles there. That's kind of cool. We'll assume that's carbon dioxide ice. Dry ice. And not water ice. Because the actual Mars has such a thin atmosphere that the water melts instantly into vapor at that low pressure. In fact, I think sublimate would be the term. The ice sublimates immediately to gas. Even though it's very, very cold, there's no pressure. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. I'm basing my approach on just complete guesswork, more or less, based on my extremely trivially small amount of knowledge of the space program in general, and Mars specifically. Which is to say not much, and I know if this was actually Mars and we came tumbling in with some crazy thing this big and not aerodynamic, it would just tear it apart, even Mars's atmosphere, because we're using it to slow down, but these things don't seem to exist in Kerbal Space Program at this time, and you can still get away with them. As long as that's the case, I will game the game. But yeah, this, 120 meters a second at Delta V is a lot more tolerable on my slowly depleting fuel tank than the originally anticipated 1100 plus required to be captured properly into an orbit, as opposed to just like smashing into the atmosphere and skipping out of it and losing enough velocity that we are captured. It's not the proper way to go about this, I can tell you that much. I may be winging this here, but I know that's not right. Alright, we're pretty darn close there to what I aimed for, so yeah, there you go. Doing a periapsis of 15 or something. Here, let me get rid of the maneuver. Yes. Yeah, 17, that's what I wanted in the first place. Wow, that is really close. Look at that. We are gonna like skim right through and hopefully slow way the hell down. And then this will change from an escape into a capture. Yes, that's what will happen. Certainly. Let's find out. I'm not gonna make any more quick saves, because if this doesn't work, we need to do something differently entirely. Ike looks to be a substantial percentage of Duna's size from here, but maybe that's just because we're coming in right at it. That could very well be the case. But also with its reduced gravity, kind of freaks me out. Here we come. We will have less attraction, obviously, so being captured is probably going to be trickier. We'll wait till we get a bit closer to slow down more, because otherwise we'll just be staring at this as we come in. Kind of cool. I see flickering dots occasionally. Probably too far to see what they were from here, even at 0 acceleration, but yeah, here's Duna. The red planet of the Kerbal system. Kerbal system? Kerbal system. Get back to this approach. And the Kerbal atmosphere, that would be the Kerbal system, yeah. Kerbal atmosphere starts at about 70 or 60 something, like 68. So I don't know when this one's going to start. Let's see if it'll just kick me to 1x when it starts. Come on, atmosphere. Please have an atmosphere, Duna. Look, I see a glow. That means there's got to be an atmosphere, right? Right? Glow means atmosphere. Otherwise, what's making that? That wouldn't make any sense. 40, and there's still nothing. We may have misestimated this, in which case we're going to go hurtling off into space. No, wait, there it goes. It moved. It didn't move until 35, but it moved. And we're still gaining speed more so than losing it, which means we might have to do something crazy like point straight at the ground. And use RCS for this. Or, wait, yeah, point straight at the ground and just give it some thrust to drop our altitude a bit more than 17, because this is not going to slow us down for crap. Yeah, see? We're still just hurtling off into space right now. Oh, come on. Yeah, there we got a surface reading, but... We'll use a little bit of fuel here. What's things look like now? We're still flying off into space. Okay. Well, let me just stop thrusting, because we're aimed the wrong way. Whee! I was kind of right about the height of some of this stuff. We got pretty low. We got to 13. That's as low as we're going to get, though. And it is slowing us down. It is slowing us down. It's pulling this Duna escape back. So this wasn't a total waste. We definitely saved ourselves a bunch of Delta V doing this, but it remains to be seen whether or not this will be a capture. We should have been more aggressive with our atmosphere dive. But, you know, what you gonna do? It's a learning process, and I felt like for my first interplanetary journey, it was definitely cool to have you guys along for the trip. Have a stab at going to Duna and see what I can get away with. Okay, it looks like we aimed a little low. Let's go ahead and give this some thrust, shall we? No problem, everything's okay, nobody panic. Way too low. Haha! Oops. I think we're going to be landing now without the return trip option. Yeah, we're not getting back up with this stage. It's not going to happen. It's the space boosters. It's too heavy. It's just too heavy. Even if we, like, aim away from the planet, it's not going to help. We're already at the verge of overheating here. Well, let's transfer the fuel we can real quick here. Okay, you know what? Here, you just stop that, would you? Okay, I guess that's not an option. Well, you know, we're pretty much coming in now, so I think I am gonna stop worrying about monopropellant, and we're gonna disconnect this stage, which is unfortunate. Alright, undock. Nah, not that stage. Yes, this stage. Okay. Let's get away from this thing a bit, shall we? Oh, that's the ground. That's death. Wonderful. Yeah, that's not acceptable. Yeah, aero braking. We're gonna have to go in more narrowly than we did last time. 17 did not cut it. Duna's atmosphere is so thin that it doesn't get really thick enough to stop you until below 20, but then it picks up, like, dramatically, so we'll see how this goes. We will see how this goes on the next episode of Kerbal Space Program. I guess that would be episode 8. Landing on Duna, or maybe crashing into Duna several times. Stay tuned. And by that I mean, thank you so much for watching. Do like it if you liked it, and I will catch you next time. Peace.